You were never part of this family, Patricia hissed, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against the marble kitchen counter. Victoria comes from a good family. She's the kind of daughter-in-law I always wanted. You were just a mistake my son made. I stood quietly, watching my mother-in-law's satisfaction grow with each moment of my silence. The invitation to my husband's engagement party lay between us on the counter, its gold lettering catching the afternoon light. An engagement party for a man who was still legally married to me. My name is Olivia, and at 29, I was watching my marriage crumble under the weight of my mother-in-law's ambition and my husband's cowardice. James and I had been married for 3 years. But to Patricia, I was always the woman who stole her precious son from his destined path. Victoria's father is a federal judge, Patricia continued, her voice dripping with superiority. What does your family have? A small accounting firm. Please, James needs someone who can elevate his status, not drag him down. I picked up my coffee mug, taking a slow sip while Patricia watched, clearly disappointed by my lack of reaction. She'd expected tears, pleading, maybe even anger. Instead, she got calm acceptance. The engagement party is next month, she said, sliding the invitation closer to me. I trust to make yourself scarce. We wouldn't want any unpleasantness. What Patricia didn't know was that I'd seen this coming for months. The late-night calls James took in his study. The mysterious business meetings that never appeared in his calendar. The way he'd started moving money between accounts. I wasn't just James's wife. I was a certified forensic accountant. Numbers told stories, and his numbers had been telling quite a tale. Of course, I replied, standing up. I'll be gone by tonight. Patricia's triumphant smile faltered slightly. This was too easy, and she knew it. Just like that? No fighting for your marriage? I gathered my purse, letting a small smile play across my lips. You're right, Patricia. I was never part of this family. Why fight for something that was never real? As I walked toward the door, she called after me. James wants an amicable separation. No lawyers, no messy paperwork. Just sign the papers he'll send you next week. I turned back one last time. Tell James not to worry. I'll handle everything. That evening, as I packed my belongings from the house James and I had shared, I thought about the past 3 years. I'd loved him truly and deeply, but love wasn't enough when you were fighting against a mother's influence and a man's weakness. My phone buzzed with a text from James. Mom told me you're leaving. It's better this way. Victoria's father can help my career. I hope you understand. We can keep this simple. No need for lawyers. No need for lawyers. Of course, that's what they wanted. A quiet exit, a simple erasure of my existence from their lives. They didn't know about the documentation I'd been gathering for months. The records of James's hidden accounts, the texts, the emails. They didn't know about my weekly meetings with my own lawyer, carefully building a case while they thought I was at yoga class. As I loaded the last box into my car, our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, came over. Olivia, dear, are you going somewhere? Just taking some things to storage, I lied smoothly. Redecorating, you know how it is. She nodded, though her eyes showed concern. She'd seen Victoria visiting our house, seen James's late-night returns, noticed the changes before I'd even admitted them to myself. That night, I checked into a small apartment I quietly rented 2 months ago. The lease was under my maiden name, paid for with money from an account Patricia and James knew nothing about. On a kitchen counter, I spread out my documents, bank statements, property deeds, business records. Everything that proved what James and Patricia had been planning, and everything that would protect me when the time came. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Patricia. I've already told the country club about James and Victoria's engagement. The papers will be there next week. Sign them quickly, and we can all move on. I smiled, thinking about the carefully organized files on my laptop, the recordings of conversations, the trail of evidence I gathered. Patricia wanted me gone, erased from their lives as if I'd never existed. James wanted a clean break without complications. They would get exactly what they wanted, just not in the way they expected. Opening my laptop, I sent a quick email to my lawyer. It's time. Start with phase 1. The response came within minutes. Everything's ready. Are you sure about this? I looked at the engagement invitation still sitting in my purse, at the photos of James and me still on my phone, at the life I was supposedly leaving behind. Yes, I typed back. Let's show them what no lawyers really means. Patricia thought she'd won, that she finally removed the stain from her perfect family portrait. James thought he could simply trade up for a better model. No consequences, no complications. They'd orchestrated my exit so carefully, never suspecting that I'd been orchestrating something of my own. As I got ready for bed in my new apartment, I couldn't help but smile at the irony. They wanted to erase me from their lives, and I was going to help them do exactly that. But erasure works both ways, and they were about to learn that sometimes getting what you want comes with unexpected consequences. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Victoria. I hope there are no hard feelings. James says you understand this is for the best. I didn't reply. There would be time for responses later. For now, I had a plan to set in motion, and the best part was, they'd handed me all the pieces I needed to make it work. Patricia wanted me gone. I'd give her exactly what she wanted, and so much more than she bargained for. A month passed, and Patricia's perfectly planned engagement party was in full swing at the country club. I knew this because Mrs. Thompson, unable to contain her outrage, kept me updated with photos and details. There was James, beaming beside Victoria in her designer dress. There was Patricia, holding court among her social circle, probably sharing the sanitized version of her son's previous relationship. I watched it all unfold from my laptop screen in my new apartment while having a video call with my lawyer, Sarah. They really went all out, she said, examining the photos. Your mother-in-law even got the governor to attend. Of course she did, I replied, scrolling through the bank statements on my screen. Patricia never does anything small, especially when she's trying to impress Victoria's family. Speaking of impressive, Sarah said, our forensic team finished analyzing those transactions you flagged. The pattern is interesting. Interesting was an understatement. Over the past year, James had been systematically moving money between accounts, creating a complex web of transactions that would have been nearly impossible to trace for someone who didn't specialize in following money trails. He's been preparing for this, I explained, pulling up a particular set of transfers, setting aside funds, creating hidden accounts. They probably thought I wouldn't notice. But they forgot what you do for a living, Sarah smiled. They had indeed. In their rush to erase me, Patricia and James had overlooked one crucial detail. I wasn't just James's wife. I was a forensic accountant who specialized in uncovering financial fraud. Every mysterious transaction, every hidden account, every attempt to shield assets, I documented it all. My phone buzzed with a text from James. The papers are ready. Can we meet tomorrow to sign everything? Perfect timing, Sarah said, watching me read the message. Shall we proceed with phase 2? I nodded, thinking about the carefully crafted plan we'd been executing. They want simple. Let's keep it simple. The next morning, I met James at a quiet cafe of his choosing. He looked nervous, fiddling with his designer watch. A recent gift from Victoria's father, no doubt. You look well, he said awkwardly, sliding a folder across the table. These are just basic separation papers, no complicated legal terms. We both walk away clean. I opened the folder, pretending to review documents I'd already seen. My own legal team had obtained a copy weeks ago through channels James didn't know existed. Everything seems to be in order, I said softly, pulling out my pen. James visibly relaxed. I knew you'd understand, he said, reaching for his coffee. You always were reasonable. That's what I told Victoria. I signed my name with a flourish, then slid the papers back to him. All done. Simple, just like you wanted. He frowned slightly, probably thrown off by my easy compliance. That's it. You don't want to review anything with your lawyer? No lawyers, remember? That's what you and Patricia wanted. James smiled, clearly relieved. Thank you, Olivia. I know this isn't easy, but it's better this way. You'll find someone more suitable. As he gathered the papers, I checked my watch. You should get those filed quickly. I'm sure Patricia is eager to start planning the wedding. He nodded, standing up. She is. The venue's already booked for next month. Victoria's father pulled some strings. How nice, I replied, gathering my things. Oh, and James, you might want to check your email when you get home. He looked confused but didn't ask. We said our goodbyes, and I watched him walk away, clutching his precious papers, having no idea what he just set in motion. Back in my apartment, I opened my laptop and sent a brief message to Sarah. It's done. Start the clock. Within hours, James would discover what no lawyers really meant. The papers he'd had me sign weren't just separation documents, they were my key to executing everything we prepared. My phone rang. Patricia. I let it go to voicemail, then played her message on speaker. How dare you? Her voice crackled with rage. What did you do? James just called me in a panic. Something about accounts being frozen. This isn't what we agreed to. I smiled, thinking about the carefully worded clauses hidden in those simple papers, the ones neither James nor Patricia had bothered to read carefully. They'd been so focused on erasing me quickly and quietly that they'd handed me exactly the tool I needed. Another call came in, Victoria this time. I ignored that one too. Let them all panic together. Sarah called next. It's done, she said. The judge signed off on everything. The freeze is in place. How long before they figure it out? I asked. Given the complexity of what James set up, days, maybe weeks. By then, the audit will be in full swing. I walked to my window, looking out at the city lights. James and Patricia had wanted to erase me, to write me out of their story as if I'd never existed. Instead, they'd given me the perfect opportunity to expose everything they tried to hide. Did you see the guest list from the engagement party? Sarah asked. The governor, 3 state senators, Victoria's father, the federal judge, all witnessing James and Patricia's big announcement. I finished, all about to learn exactly what kind of family they're really dealing with. My phone kept buzzing with messages, from James, from Patricia, from Victoria, even from country club acquaintances probably hoping for gossip. I ignored them all. They'd wanted me gone, erased, forgotten. They were about to learn that sometimes the people you try to erase are the ones who leave the most permanent mark. I opened my laptop one last time that evening, reviewing the documents that would soon become public record. Everything was there. The hidden accounts, the questionable transactions, the carefully constructed facade of wealth that James and Patricia had built. No lawyers, they'd said. They should have hired the best they could find. 3 months after the engagement party, I sat in Sarah's office, watching the chaos unfold on the local news. Prominent family under investigation. The headline read, followed by a photo of James and Patricia leaving the courthouse, their faces hidden behind designer sunglasses. They're calling it one of the biggest financial scandals of the year, Sarah said, muting the TV. The federal investigation has expanded to include Victoria's father. Apparently, he was more involved than anyone suspected. I nodded, thinking about the domino effect that had started with those simple separation papers. The documents I'd signed had triggered an automatic audit, a clause buried in legal language that James hadn't bothered to review. That audit had revealed not just his hidden accounts, but a whole network of questionable transactions involving Victoria's father's court cases. Patricia called again. Sarah mentioned. She's offering a settlement. Wants to make this all go away quietly. I almost laughed. A bit late for quiet, isn't it? The scandal had exploded in exactly the way Patricia had always feared. Her carefully curated social image was in shambles. The country club had suspended their membership. The governor had publicly distanced himself from the family. Victoria's father was facing an ethics investigation. My phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Thompson. You won't believe what happened. Patricia tried to get into the country club for lunch. They turned her away at the door. The mighty had fallen, and they'd orchestrated their own descent. James had attempted to contact me multiple times, his messages evolving from angry accusations to desperate pleas. The last one arrived this morning. Please, Olivia, you have to help me fix this. I'll leave Victoria. We can start over. I know now what really matters. I deleted it without responding. He still didn't get it. This wasn't about revenge or getting him back. This was about consequences, something Patricia had never taught him to face. The FBI wants to interview you again, Sarah said, pulling me from my thoughts. As the whistleblower, your testimony is crucial. I nodded. Schedule it. They should know everything. My phone rang. Victoria. After 3 months of silence, this was her first attempt to contact me. Curious, I answered. How did you know? She asked, her voice small. About the money, about my father's involvement. How long did you know? I'm a forensic accountant, Victoria. Following money trails is what I do. Maybe if you and Patricia hadn't been so busy planning that engagement party, you might have remembered that. There was a long pause. They're saying Dad might go to prison. James too. Actions have consequences. I replied simply, then ended the call. Standing by Sarah's office window, I watched the city go about its business. Somewhere across town, Patricia was probably in her kitchen, wondering how her perfect plans had crumbled. James was likely meeting with lawyers, finally understanding why keeping things simple had been his biggest mistake. "What now?" Sarah asked, joining me at the window. "Now, I focus on my life. I just accepted a position with the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. They were quite impressed with how I handled this case." Sarah smiled. From unwanted daughter-in-law to federal investigator. Not bad for someone Patricia thought she could erase. That evening, I returned to my apartment, my new home, bought with my own money, free from any connection to James or his family. On my desk sat a framed copy of the simple separation papers that had started it all. A reminder that sometimes the best revenge isn't fighting back, it's letting people trip over their own arrogance. My phone buzzed one last time, Patricia again. I answered, curious about what she could possibly have to say. "You've destroyed this family," she said, her voice thick with tears. "No, Patricia, you did that yourself. I just showed everyone the truth you tried to hide. We were going to give you a generous settlement," she protested. "You could have just taken the money and disappeared." "You wanted to erase me," I replied calmly. "Instead, you erased yourselves." I hung up, feeling a sense of closure. They had wanted a simple ending. No lawyers, no complications, no trace of my existence in their perfect lives. Instead, they got exactly what they deserved: exposure, consequences, and a permanent record of their own choices. As I looked out at the sunset, I thought about how different my life was from what I'd imagined 3 months ago. I wasn't James's forgotten wife or Patricia's discarded daughter-in-law. I was Olivia Stevens, FBI financial crimes investigator, and I had a new life to build.